The star in args is not part of the variable name. It's a special symbol in Python known as the unpacking operator. It allows us to take a collection of items and unpack them into individual elements. When placed in front of an iterable object, like a list or tuple, in a function call, it breaks them down into separate individual arguments. So that's why star args works in Python parameters, but it's also used in other places as well. We can use args to unpack sequences when calling functions. Let's say we had a function called add, and it added a, b, and c, and it just returned that, right? Return a plus b plus c, okay? We had a list, maybe it was entered by the user or something that was using the program, and they're 1, 2, and 3. And so we can actually use add, but instead of having to go through every single one of these items, right? So instead of saying add numbers 1, and then the second item, and then the third item, right? Instead of doing this, there's actually a shorter way to do this. We can simply unpack numbers into this parameter. So we're doing this in a slightly different way than before. Instead of unpacking all of the arguments, we're unpacking the list into the arguments of this function. So we're going to unpack 1 into A, 2 into B, and 3 into C. And so to do this, we simply just type star numbers, because we're unpacking all the values, right? And so that's the same as when we had a function, right? We just had args, so for every argument. And so when we actually do this, this is unpacking all of the arguments, and now we can use it for every arg in args, and we can do stuff with it. And so this is just doing it in a different place, right? So we're unpacking numbers into every value. And so if I were to print star numbers, we would get 1, 2, and 3, because we're printing each item separately. So you can print each item in a list with a space in between it without having to use a for loop or anything. So this just simply takes each item and then puts it in whatever you're doing, right? So in this function, it puts it for every single argument. With the print statement, all it did was it unpacked this list and put it into the first argument in the print statement, the second argument, and the third argument. And so with add numbers, we actually have to surround this with a print statement because it just returns a value, doesn't print it. We get 6 because we added 1, 2, and 3. So in this example, the list numbers is unpacked by star numbers into separate arguments for the add function. The star made it so we didn't have to look at how many items were in the list. We just used the add function and unpacked all the values from numbers into each parameter. Args can only collect positional arguments, not keyword arguments. If you remember, positional arguments are when you have a function and you just enter the values. Keyword arguments are when you actually tell which one you're entering. arg1 and maybe arg3 is next, and then arg2, but args can't use keyword arguments. Because if we try to do this, maybe with our greet example, typing greet name is equal to John will just give us an error, because there's nothing named John, right? So if we run this, we get an error. And if we were to do names as well, this would still not make any sense because it can't use keyword arguments for args. So if we try to use keyword arguments with a function, we will just get an error. And as you can see, trying to use a keyword argument here causes a type error because our function only takes positional arguments. In the next section, we will learn about something called quargs, which stands for keyword arguments, and it has 2 stars, which will help us fix this problem.